All right, can our online folks hear us?
Yes, loud and clear.
Wonderful. Thank you for your patience there.
Amy.
Do we stand anywhere in particular?
No.
PowerPoint, will they see us?
I'm actually, they can, the screen is shared, and they can also see the video of you, and I'm going to log in as well, and then I'll moderate the chat. So if anybody has a question, I'll just raise my hand so you can know it's an online person.
All right. Sorry for the delay, folks. My name is Lee. I am a director of rec. I am also a board member here at Licensure. Today, we're here with Vincent Bonley and Ray Archer. In my opinion, two legendary figures in this field, especially for being men. I'm a male rec therapist myself, so I look up to these guys. They're here today to talk about recreation therapy and licensure in the New York State, past, present, and future. Make sure you mute yourself. And if you have any questions, just hit the raise your hand bar and we'll answer any questions on that. Guys, take it away.
Excellent, excellent.
Hi, everyone. And Lee, thank you for the nice introduction. That was so nice of you. Ray and I were asked to do a presentation for NYSHA on licensure. We're going to kind of give you the past, present, and future of the licensure initiative bill here in New York State. Even though we'll have a good amount of slides to go over, most of the presentation I would like to have is kind of near the end to just talk about some of the issues and concerns that you all may have regarding licensure in New York State. So that's kind of become more or less the presentation in and of itself.
Just to kind of let everybody know is that this PowerPoint is one of the versions of it. The one that we wanted isn't here, so I'm not really sure exactly what you're going to see. It's probably the second or third version, which is fine. It's all there. What we could do with Licensure is send you the original so it's posted wherever they want it, if that's what they want. Because if we had some interesting add-ons at the end. So I think we're trying to forward. Okay. All right. So just basically real quick, we're just going to try to cover some of the history, walk you through as much as we can to get you caught up to the present time. And we have a couple of topics that we want to make sure we cover. And I think the most important one is the first one is the need for it. Why do you want it? Why do we want it? I don't know if I'm supposed to stand here the whole time. I apologize to my in-person people. I apologize to my online people. I will try to remember to come back to the screen, but if I'm in front of the screen, does that mean you can't see it, or is it online? I don't know. I think it's online, so you don't have to worry about me. All right. I will walk back and forth, okay, guys? All right. So yeah, the most important one that I think is the identifying the need for it, and another key one is proof of harm. But we got certain steps that we're going to go through. We're going to share with you, okay? So then, the first picture we have here is the only picture we have right now is the fundraising that we did. This really, in the new version of this, was at the end that we were going to explain about fundraising. But this was almost at every conference we had. We sold T-shirts, we sold whatever we could. You had to raise money for. Vinny did a lot of traveling. Vinny, Mary Beth, anybody that could go to different politicians' offices, DC conferences, wherever they had to go, they had to be reimbursed for all the travel and time that they spent. So we had to raise money for that. And as we went along, we realized that we needed a lot of money for lobbyists, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But fundraising became a major priority. I was the treasurer for the licensure, so I wanted to make sure that we talked a little bit about fundraising and importance. It's in the whole license plate, but it's not really cool. It does say New York State. Excellent. Yeah. We went looking for it. We thought, oh, we're hoping someone has it. We don't think it's available, but they're easy to make. They're easy to make.
So, it's out of the way, really.
Sure.
Yeah, so, kind of like to kind of just mention this, this little inspiration from Margaret Mead. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. And indeed, it is the only thing that has ever has. So, one of the things that, was really important, I'll have Ray take over the slide, is that, we had a committed amount of people really, even though maybe a small amount of people initially, but it kind of grew as the licensure initiative also grew.
Yes, we put the slide in because we really wanted to honor the team. There was many people that helped us out. There were many people that were involved along the way. Vinny and Linda were like initiated. We'll explain that a little bit in a moment or two. And then Vinny and Isabel and Vizzy and Mary Beth, and then the committees, but Vinny was from the beginning till the end, and these people really worked very hard. That's even minimizing it. They hours and hours and hours in travel time, and phone calls, and all kinds of crazy things for 10 years, for a long time. You guys were involved. We were all involved, but so I want to make sure we honor. So if you get licensed, I want to make sure this is official. If you get licensed, you got to make sure you mention Vinny on the bill or somewhere along the way, because he did start the whole process.
That's not necessary. So, but sometimes Ray and I kind of get a little confused with the timeline of it. He thinks it's 12 years. I thought it was more like 10, but it's been a decade. So it's a decade of trying to really get the licensure bill passed, and I'll get more specifics about it as well. So I'm going to start from the beginning. So give me a little history of the licensure bill. So a good friend and colleague of mine, Linda D'Anto. Linda was from New York, to Staten Island in particular. She was working in Staten Island for HIV/AIDS daycare program. And Linda just called me out of the blue back in about 2006, and she, I didn't hear from her for a number of years actually, but she went on to tell me that what had happened recently at the state survey that really upset her, and it was required to, her CTRSs that were providing core programs were no longer going to be reimbursed for those core programs. Because why? Because they were not licensed professionals. So she didn't have to let go of any of the CTRSs. She just had to kind of change in terms of what programs to run. No longer those core programs that were reimbursable. But she had to do something else in order to get reimbursed. Any thoughts about how that happened? Who's licensed as a similar type of professional in New York State? That is really a good answer, but not OT. How about LCATs? Licensed creative arts therapists, right? So they are licensed. They are licensed in New York. So what had happened then was that Linda had asked for these LCATs to do these core groups. So her program could get reimbursed. So, and we heard similar type of really responses and that kind of happening throughout other agencies around New York State. We even heard actually people getting kind of really squeezed out of their agencies or let go of their agencies because they were not licensed. I think Ray might have a story.
Yes, I was involved pretty much from the beginning because he's my friend, and so is most of the rest of the community, and I wanted to be with them and help, and I thought it was a great path to take and a great opportunity for TR, so I wanted to support it. But when I hit home, I got a little concerned. I didn't really think it would come to Stony Brook. But at the hospital, I was working in the day treatment program, and the nursing supervisors came to me, there's 3 of them, and said that my groups that I'm still employed, which was sort of a conversation like that, you're nervous, but you can't run programs by yourself. Someone has to sit in with you when you do it. Now, I have a master's degree, I'm certified, blah, blah, age, whatever. I'm thinking, really? After all this time, someone's gonna have to sit in and like babysit me? You know, I didn't understand it, but knowing that it was happening to other people, I'm thinking, well, I still got a job, you know. I guess I'd go along with this. I didn't have much of a choice, but I guess, you know, I won't make a big deal of it. So what I did was, what wound up happening is the nurse came in, she just sat there, and it was for billing purposes. She didn't say much, she didn't do much. Sometimes that was good, sometimes that was bad, but every group I ran, she had to be in, no matter what it was, social program. It was more of the billable sessions, but they just made the decision that for every session, they wanted someone to come in. Which is something I kind of fought for a long time. I always liked co-leadership. I always wanted the support and other staff to know what I'm doing. So having someone in there kind of was okay to me. But that's when it hit home for me, and I'm like, we really got to figure this out, guys. Right?
So as a result of all this, around 2007, we began to form the licensure committee. So just in case you didn't know, so as I mentioned, we established the licensure committee in 2007. And the bill was first introduced in 2009. Just to let you know, the bill was introduced 4 times. You know, and I'll explain that as we go along. Well, 3 times plus the first time. 2000, and we originally, I think, was Senator Carlucci from Rockland County. He helped us with the bill initially. But, you know, I would say in the most recent terms of the bill, it was really Assembly Member Zembrowski from New City, New York. He was the one that really helped us, you know, in terms of actually signing on to the bill, sponsoring the bill. You know, the good thing about also the bill is that
They can't see that it's on the board. Sorry.
I'll go to the side. Sorry. So there were other co-signers on the bill, co-sponsors on the bill. There they are. You know, that's a good thing. You want to make sure that you get people or assembly members, senators to co-sign. There's more multi-sponsors, right? That happened. So then also in January of 2015, Senator Andrew Lanza from Staten Island, who knew actually Linda D'Anto, and so he sponsored the bill. So now at this point we have, you know, sponsorship from the Assembly, you know, and the Senate, and that's what you really want. We have Senate co-signers as well, right? I'm trying to move this out. It's just actually just so once the bill was then sponsored, it goes, it usually gets referred to a committee, and this bill got referred to the Higher Education Committee several times.
Which is really a big deal, you know. I mean, just making the bill was a big deal, because we're not politicians. We weren't really sure where to go, where to begin, and so a lot of research, right?
Yeah, because, you know, actually the sponsorship of the bill is pretty easy. You know, we did that happened very quickly. The issue always came to, you know, it would not pass through the Higher Education Committee. Always got stuck in the Higher Education Committee. Now, as we go along, we'll give our reasons why we think that happened. You know, so that's what would happen. You know, you only have 2 years to get your bill introduced and passed. You have to do both Assembly and Senate, right? They come together, they vote on the bill, they pass it, and then the governor signs it into action. You know, fortunately, we never got to that point. So the bill would die, we would introduce it. The bill would die, we would introduce it. The bill would die, we would introduce it until, you know, it came to a point where, you know, we thought it was just at that point not able really to continue, you know, any further. So we disbanded the licensure committee in 2017. We felt also that we needed a lobbyist to help us move the bill. You know, it takes money to actually, you know, get a lobbyist on board and at least give us an idea of the climate. what Albany's like and whether this bill is passable or not, or what we can do, to make some more movement actually in the right direction. So that would go through other committees that needed to go through and possibly go to the floor. So the Senate and Assembly would vote on it.
Was there research done to know how much a lot is?
Yes, yeah, we have a point, we could discuss that a little bit more to keep that question, because it's a good question, but we want to kind of give you the setup first, okay?
So what has been done? That's you, right? Is that you?
I don't remember.
I think
We're so off our list of.
there we go. I think it is.
Let's see. The idea was we really needed to get many people involved. We needed to get members involved. Now, you would think everybody wanted it, so you would think, not a big deal. Come to conferences, we did surveys, we phone calls, we did the whole bit where we thought we were covering our bases, trying to get you guys interested, motivated, and find out if you really wanted it. And at the time, the answer came out to be yes. So we took it to, let's see. Okay, so we actually rented a bus during one of the conferences, and we went to Albany, and we had box lunches there. It was very well coordinated and everything. The only unfortunate thing was it was the committee and about 3 other people showed up. And it didn't feel so good at that moment. It didn't look so good at that moment, but that's what happened. Part of it was on a Tuesday after a long conference. Who could go another day, et cetera, et cetera. We understood all that. But there was a lot of logistics to get to that point. And when we only had, I think, 14 or 16 of us or whatever, we had a whole bus for 16 of us. The point is that we got there, we had our elevator speeches all ready to go, we had our packets all ready to go, which took time to make and create, and the committee was awesome and all that. And we would go and meet with our person, send your representative. So it really, when you got there, you might have gotten the aid, they might have been out to lunch, they might have been off for the week, whatever. We pretty much saw many aides, right? And they were very, very supportive and very, very nice, and took notes and asked questions, and would spend about 15 minutes to a half hour, depending on which who went to whatever. We came back a little pumped up, a little excited that we did this. It sounded good. People were interested.
Can I just add to that?
Sure, yeah, absolutely. Please.
So just to add to that, even going before all this, really no one on the committee knew what we were doing. I should have prefaced that before.
Right.
We had no experience in this. We kind of, as we went along, we learned. Some hard knocks. But we were able to make some, movement along. And the Albany trip was pretty significant, even though there weren't maybe a swarm of recreation therapists that went to Albany. But that was probably even just facing face to face with the legislator, or face to face, with their aide. It made such an impact that a lot of assembly members, senators actually co-signed on the bill. We began to see more and more co-sponsorship. And these are just some of the things we have done. We probably can add to that. Going to different TR conferences throughout the state to talk about licensure. We actually also had meetings with 1199, because many recreation therapists, particularly I know downstate, are in the union. So we had to talk to them about what we're doing, because a lot of, again, whether they would be in favor of it or support it as well.
And we definitely wanted their support. We definitely were trying to promote it as a positive thing. It would be good for them, right?
Neighbor support. And then we went on just to go to other organizations like New York State Parks and Recreation, Metro, even to Cortland, to St. Joseph's College to get letters of recommendation.
The ideal situation would be have every school send a letter of support. That would be ideal, right? Every TR school. Every professional organization should write a letter of support. The president for many of the colleges should be writing a letter of support. So they should be, we should have a folder this big saying you need TR and we all support it. We we had that kind of sort of, right? We had that on paper, which is good. We needed more. We needed more support. We needed people to make commitments, you know, and that was hard to get. That really was hard at times, right? Where New York State Parks and Rec, they were going to back us. They were going to help get a lobbyist. They were going to, you know, they were, and then not TR, you know, they were going to support us. And for some reason, it just fell apart. They, after like a year and a half, it dragged out. I don't remember exactly the timeline again, but I know it was looking great. And, you know, we needed Licensure to support us. And they were great. They gave us money every once in a while, you know, the trips and whatever. They signed the letter and all. But we needed more. And we'll talk about that at the end. Okay.
So let's identify the need for licensure, you know, so, you know, I think most of us who've been working in the field for a while have an understanding that, you know, even though there are CTRSs in the state of New York, you know, I think we're maybe close to 1,000, maybe a little under, but there's a lot of people who are working under a similar title, recreation therapist, or, you know, I've heard titles of therapeutic recreation specialist without the certified, right? Similar titles. There's probably maybe doing similar type of tasks as well. There's much more of them than there are CTRSs, I believe. You know. And I think some of the things we mentioned here kind of get squeezed out of the profession. You know, another thing to remember also is that, you know, kind of look at some other professions that may oppose your bill, right? And actually, occupational therapy is probably one of the biggest, maybe, you know, I would say professions that are in opposition of a licensure.
Let me just jump in for a second. Who would think that our people that we sit beside would oppose us? You know, wouldn't mental health counselors and speech therapists and art therapists and music therapists, wouldn't you think that all social workers and nursing want us to be licensed so we can be better professionals at the table for treatment team meetings and whatever? And
I'm going to stop you there
because,
you know, if they feel it infringes on their scope of practice, they
right.
will not support you. You know, so these are discussions that you kind of really need even before maybe you actually begin to pursue the licensure initiative, to actually sit down with them. We did that. We sat down with, I believe we tried to, with OT and the president of the New York State OT profession to see where they were coming from, see how they felt about us, see what some of the issues are, until if they felt we're infringing on their scope of practice.
I think
explain to them, you know, well, no, this is kind of how we look at in terms of our scope of practice, and it's really not infringing on your scope.
I think that was the biggest shock to us when we thought someone would oppose us and not support us. And when, you know, my supervisor was an OT at the time, and my coworkers an OT, I'm thinking, really? Not these people per se, but their organization completely opposed it. Like, really did not back us at all, because they feel they have their scope of practice and we would be infringing on it. Did you want to add something? That's a question.
Is there any like paperwork or like a PowerPoint or anything done to specifically put on paper, like OT or RT, like laid out?
That's great thought. Great, that's a good thought.
It's pretty much just the bill, you know, and then looking at the bill and us explaining the bill.
I'm just thinking maybe like the bill was similar language and have another supporting document just to
Sure.
really like point out those specific.
You have a question?
This is a shared comment from one of our online folks.
Okay.
Sonia. So she's wondering if things would be different now. Specifically because at the height of the pandemic, former Governor Cuomo had us listed as essential employees on a list side by side along with speech. And seeing us identified in that way was one of the highlights of her career. So she's wondering if you had any comments on that.
Yeah,
Hi, Sonia.
you know, I think that's great that, you know, at the time, Governor Cuomo did recognize, you know, recreation therapists as, you know, essential frontline workers. You know, that was great. as you know, when we're going through the height of the pandemic, he was being televised nationally. So, that message came out really throughout the entire country. However, I'm not sure, I guess we'll talk about it now. My experiences, and I know there's some people on this session that have not been made. But New York State, I would say generally speaking, is not in favor of licensing professions. Very restricted in that. And that was my kind of, after 10 years with this, that was the feel I got from it. So, I'm not sure if I answered the question, but I think that, I think, certainly put RT on the map with Governor Cuomo, but I'm not sure if that would have made a difference, Because, the thing also to remember, just kind of getting to the last bullet point on this, is that, why are you really pursuing licensure? I think that's something, if there's a group of people from NYSHA, the NYSHA board, or NYSHA committee, or a small group of people that are thinking about licensure, I think you really have to kind of sit down and really have conversations about, why are we really doing this? Is it could be a number of reasons, right? But we'll talk more about that. So we're running too far behind. Pass it down. See the time. Okay. So I think most of us know, or most maybe don't know, is that in the state of New York, to be recognized as an allied health profession, you must be licensed in the state. So that is really the highest form of regulation. That is licensure, and in our case, certification. And so therefore, to become licensed, therapeutic recreation must be recognized by law.
And that's really the key, is that it would be a law that we were, recognized field. Okay. So why do we need regulation? Well, here's some really clear answers why we think we need it. Public protection. Looking at our consumers, we want to make sure that they're safe and they're getting quality care, right? So we want to make sure that it's a licensed / certified recreational therapist giving it, not someone from housekeeping or dietary or CNA who did a great job and moved up. We want it to be that in the future, only a licensed person can provide services. Okay, nobody else can call themselves recreational therapists, no one else can offer services. So we want to protect our concerns. Professional integrity, we'd be able to come to the table and be more recognized and more respected, that shouldn't be, I don't know if that should be that high on the list of why we want it, but it's a good reason to have it. You work hard, you got your degree, you have your certification, you should be recognized. We want to make sure that they have at least the minimal competence, and actually a license would be far from minimal, that would be the highest competence. But that would mean that they would still, we'll talk about it. We'll have to take a test. The CTRS test, the way we present it, would count towards the license. You wouldn't have to go and take other tests or anything. Of course, you would have to redesign another format. You could steal this format, of course, not steal it. You could use this format, of course, but that's what we had, right? That they would take.
Well, the
CTRS
exam is your entryway into licensure. And that's what a lot of states did. Right? So instead of kind of just trying to put together another exam for state become licensed would make sense. So, and as we know, the CTRS exam is really a good exam. It's a valid, reliable exam. So, we thought, and many other states agree with this too, that in pass the CTRS exam, you have good professional conduct, become licensed as well. So, instead of complicating it and making another exam. That would not be good. Certification, we're talking about
Sure. Well, we're going to compare for a second certification and licensure. Okay, so certification doesn't protect the public as much as a license would. Okay, license, it's the law, so if you break the law, what happens? You pay the price, either jail or fines, whatever. Certification, if you don't do, if you hurt someone or whatever, you lose your job, which is bad, but the law is the law, right? So, it doesn't necessarily have practice protection, right? So we want to be protected. You know, that's a key to have job security, make sure that what you're doing has value. So, an entry level exam will be required.
Right, CTRS exam.
Yeah. Graduation from an approved education program.
You have all that?
That's what certification is, and ability for awards of disciplinary role certification. That's what's happening now. That's what's happening now. So, and it does have title protection, and CTRC makes sure of that that's part of their deal, and we get that right once you get certified.
Right, no one else would call themselves a CTRS, right?
They can call themselves
Some people do.
recreational therapists.
Some
They
people
can call
do.
themselves a recreational therapist, but by law, we're trying to set it up where they can't call themselves recreational therapists. So CTRS is mandatory in order to use the title.
The licensure. So as we mentioned, you know, it's the highest level of protection, you know, due to, you know, making sure that, you know, that our constituents, or I should say our consumers, are protected from, you know, therapeutic recreation. I guess, you know, there are people who may harm consumers regarding, you know, therapeutic recreation that is, I'm losing the words here, that are potentially dangerous, I guess. The independent scope of practice of protection, kind of mentioned that. That would also happen, and as we mentioned earlier as well, the CTRS is the exam.
Quick question,
Yeah.
throughout the 10 years, did you have to show any examples of harm?
Good.
based on-
I'm glad you mentioned that, so.
This board worked so hard, and
Yeah.
Mary Beth, everyone, they really did a lot of
I know it can
research.
be really challenging.
Yes.
Yeah, just real quickly, I'm gonna get to that question.
You gotta step aside.
You know, so that, you know, NCTRC does recognize state regulation, state licensure. So I think, you know, that really wasn't an issue. They, you know, Diane worked at NCTRC for a number of years, and she knows that, you know, that was one of the things that NCTRC does support state regulation. Okay, I'm not going to get into that. These are just the licensed state. We know Utah was the first one, and New Jersey, you know, just recently became licensed. And even though this says 20 states are involved, it's more like 10.
Yeah, the updated version, we heard from Anne, she sent us an email, we spoke to it yesterday, and we know it's now 10 states are still, but 10 states, you know, looking for licensure is a good thing.
So, you know, Diane, you mentioned about proof of harm. Yeah, because that is one of the things that, you know, we began to find out that a lot of the legislators that we spoke to, that came up very often. You know, can you show me proof of harm? Can you show me proof of harm that, you know, there are people other than CTRCs that say they are recreation therapists are, you know, harming the public from recreation therapy services. So, you know, I'm going to show you some examples of how we did it. But I can give you actually two, really, well, I'll give you maybe, yeah, I'll give you two. The one that really comes, yeah. Say it again.
Are we able to pull that information from your state justice center?
Justia.com? Is that
No, the
what?
Justice Center,
Yeah.
the arm of law enforcement that oversees all legal agencies.
I
Okay.
don't know. I don't know.
We
You know.
have a couple of sites here that you could do the research that we found helpful.
Thank you.
So I'll get to them in a second. But, you know, one of the things that, an example was that we went through a ProPublica, that's another website, and we found a lot of different instances where there was harm to the public. The one that really sticks out in my mind that I think I will never forget, this happened a while ago, was that there was in a nursing home out on Long Island. There was trip scheduled, kind of intergenerational trip during Thanksgiving week. So a group of residents that had dementia was brought by, a recreation therapist, not certified, or people with similar degrees, to a school, elementary school, to have a Thanksgiving dinner with the students. There's a lot of residents, a lot of students, very chaotic. So after lunch, they walk back to the nursing home. Guess what happened? Exactly. They realized that they're missing someone. So, what they, police got involved, of course, the facility got involved. Unfortunately, what happened, they found the resident frozen to death in the streets of Long Island. So now, would have that happened if it was a CTRS?
Possibly, we're not perfect, everybody makes mistakes, but we are trained to do certain things, and you take that responsibility very seriously. It's your career, it's your job. So the hope is that we would do a certified person would do a better job than someone just up the ranks that, is saying they're a rec therapist. So we want to make sure that those incidents never happen or minimally happen, and there's consequences if they happen, right?
Right, of course, so that's an example of physical harm, but there were many others as well that we found out.
But not necessarily CTRS, right? Not necessarily rec therapist.
Right, you don't want to have any kind of incident with a CTRS because that's the entry into the licensure exam, right? Licensure for recreation therapy. So, right, you want to kind of compare recreational therapist with similar title that had, unfortunately hurt the danger to the public. Steps to licensure. So we're kind of, we're going to kind of get into a little bit some of the steps that maybe we kind of feel that may help with licensure. Once I said this isn't the right order, but can't try it. So challenges and opportunities. What happened? Yeah. Okay.
Go back. We got.
We have problems.
That's okay. It's not there.
It's not there.
No.
Oh, okay.
Where's my laptop?
All right.
Get my laptop.
Sorry about that. We were having technical difficulties today. So.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where's the camera on here? So I want to check. Watch it. Yeah.
All right, so sorry about that, because whenever you have to kind of run into a technical problem.
Yeah.
So, as we're trying to fix this issue here, Now, what do you think some of the challenges or opportunities might be for us to become licensed? Any thoughts? Yeah. Start with Alexander.
What's that? Money?
Money, certainly. Right, well, you mentioned earlier about lobbyists. Yeah, you know, lobbyists, I think some of the, I would say a rough figure would probably be back in our $60,000. To be a lobbyist.
A year, not just, right?
$60,000.
That's the salary to lobby for you.
Okay.
It kind of like ties back into the other fields, like what makes us like entity. What makes us different, because they're like, we have OT, healthcare, why do we need to have licensure RTC? That are ourselves, like, why are we different, like, we have, super given license.
Since we've got the slides up, I'm going to jump onto the slides. Okay, so harm to the public. Here we go. So yeah, we actually had a small committee that will look for different cases of harm to the public. Some of the resources that we used that was helpful. It was ProPublica, and again, I'm not sure. ProPublica is still there, but what they did have at the time was they had state surveys. You could look through the state surveys of the different flags and deficiencies they had, and you'd be surprised how many were under activities or recreation and therapy related. So we would use those examples. Also, we use certain tags themselves, like F249, right? Actually need someone who's qualified as a professional. And so many of these people that were working in long-term care were not qualified. There's also another one, Unemployment Insurance Appeal Board. Use that. Earlier, I thought maybe Jackie was referring to Justia. That was a website we used as well. And these were actually the cases coming up regarding different cases of everything, but we also found cases of recreation therapists being disciplined. So, and there's probably more since then that if I look at. That was step one, step two. So, so really to kind of assess the legislative climate, again, I think that through my experiences, through our experiences through this, that we felt that it was not really the right time to pursue this any further because of just the comments many of the legislators and assembly members were saying to us. In terms of support and commitment of RT professionals in the state, that's something really important. I think it's something that we did back in the day where we actually went to a conference and did a general session on licensure, and I think that's when we began to feel there was support from NYSHA membership to pursue this even further. And you could do that even there are other different ways by sending out surveys. We had done a survey along with the help of Portland University to find out if people were really interested in licensure, and it was overwhelming, almost 90%. So that's something that we should do as a profession here in New York State.
So I just want to say to you guys, you want to get the support of the schools to back you more than we did. Leland was pretty good, St. Joseph's College, Long Island was pretty good, Portland was pretty good. But I think there's like 28 schools that offer recreation therapy, not all certified, but not this best, but I believe there's 28. Is that correct, Jack?
I don't know off my head. I know we have fewer because it's the open air program.
Okay.
But there's also Rockport and Utica.
Right. Right.
And I don't know how many schools, there's associates program.
Right. Yeah.
But yes, we should have like associate schools on there too.
And there's no reason why they can't write letters, support you, they do fundraisers. I don't know, but it just takes people to have that happen. Yeah.
I'm sorry, that's okay. So, another thought might be, do you want to tag on to another bill? That was, a couple of the legislators have suggested that, since you're having such difficult time getting your bill passed independently, maybe you want to tack on to, just give an example of something that, the LCATs did. So they tacked on to the mental health bill, their state mental health. So, New Jersey could have, I don't know, yeah.
Pretty sure they did.
They're doing an online session, I'm sure you're aware, for
Yeah.
Licensure tomorrow, I believe, so.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they talked about it.
That's a good question for them before it goes to that session. I'd love to know that.
Yeah, so, right, that's another option for opportunity. Think of it. If you're having difficulty passing the bill, just recreational therapy itself, then maybe tack on to another bill. That'd be helpful. Getting your support system. Talk to other states that have been licensed. We had a lot of conversations with New Hampshire, also Oklahoma. If you look at our bill is similar to New Hampshire, Oklahoma. So we didn't want to reinvent the wheel, so we kind of use their bills as a kind of.
You want to mention that someone helped you guys do that? Remember who or how that came about? Wasn't there a specific person that helped with the bill, writing the bill?
Oh, we're talking about in terms of the legislator?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, right, so, good point, right, so, when you kind of put a bill together, you want to have a bill writer. So what you want to do is, we're lucky enough to have someone from Assemblymember Zambowski's office, who's on their staff, and he actually helped us write the bill. Because we had no idea how to write the bill. So he kind of formulated and put it into, I guess, more understandable way for legislation.
And it was a process. It wasn't something that just happened. It got sent back to us. We had to have input. We'd send it back to them. They wanted words changed. You know what I'm saying? It was took months and months and months to get a bill. So.
Question?
Is it also helpful to have letters from citizens?
Absolutely. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I'm very enthusiastic about that part. Yeah, anybody who did well in your program could write, anybody, your family can, anybody, the more positive, they should give a good reason as to why. They should justify the benefit of TR and why we should be licensed. I mean, writing a letter is very nice, but we want it to be powerful, and you need many. You need a lot of support, right?
Yeah, consumers, of course, but also you can look at other different organizations that support the consumers that we also treat. Alzheimer's Foundation, Alzheimer's Organization.
Say that again.
Yeah.
All the organizations.
All
Alzheimer's, NAMI, those organizations should be writing letters of support. If they recognize the value of what we do, then you want them to tell them that, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So kind of in your own mind, establish that rationale for licensure. When you start the process, talk to NCTRC. That's what we did as well. Speak to them. Speak to Ann about the bill. One of the things I think might be on the slides here. One of the most important things I think, if that's something that we all want to do, is to join the task force, the NCTRC, also the actual task force on licensure. Really valuable. I was on it for a number of years. There's states that are pursuing licensure, so you also have resources from ACTRA, from NCTRC. Also, you can network with different states that are pursuing licensure. And everyone is kind of in a different stage of licensure. I found that going out to these different phone calls, we were in New York State, that is, was really advanced. We were, we had a bill, we had sponsorship, we were in committee, and many states are just thinking about it. So So that's very valuable. They are usually quarterly calls, so that's something that, again, we need to do.
Also, at the Agile conference, they had sessions and they would talk at the conference, but it was kind of cool because at one of the session, I don't even know if it was a session, it might have been a social they had, anybody who was pursuing all the, so each state kind of stood and cheering and it was very, humbling, it was very motivating, knowing that there are other people out there in the same position and wanted the support, and we gave, it was really, they're a good organization. Actually, I think, and NCTRC, the fact that they work together is really smart.
That's big.
Yeah.
Making sure that, working together for common cause and licensure. We talked about, contacting a legislative attorney or a bill writer, which is helpful for us. Then you kind of determine, you say with the certification, to pursue licensure. Down as easy as that. Step 4.
There you go. Right there, it says join it.
Right, there it is, right, step 4. These are steps, again, a lot of these steps can be kind of, interchangeable. Or at least different kind of bullet points on these steps. Once again, discuss it, at your forums, now you can do it all virtually. Put something together virtually and just have a conversation with your membership. What do you think about this? Start to identify individuals, for these different committees that are essential,
And that is essential, having committees, because what wound up happening for a while for us was that it really fell on Mary Beth and Vinny and Dorothy, our secretary, and myself, and other hardworking people with meeting a lot, and talking a lot. And we didn't try, we're very successful having subcommittees, but it became a lot of work for the same 4 or 6 people, so you want everybody to have responsibility, keep them involved.
right,
Responsibilities.
Right, I think, I'm not sure we ever got to this slide, but, fundraising, someone who can do the fundraising, someone who can do some political action, someone who actually can help out with the campaign. Those are 2 committees that came to my mind.
There might be just like, it might come up, I don't know if we missed that one, I'm not sure.
Informational packet.
Yes. This was very helpful when we went to, it's great for anywhere, you go anywhere to talk about it. If you go to NAMI or any of their, Chad has a program, you go and hand them a packet about rec therapy, whatever. But, something about what is rec therapy, what is licensure, what's our purpose, what's our scope of practice, whatever information you think is relevant for them to support you, you want to give them ammunition, so when they go to write their letters, they have the right wordage, to support you.
Yeah, and one of the common mistakes we made, at least I can say I made when I started to go and meet with these different legislators, was that I assumed they knew what recreation therapy was. I could tell, when we're talking about the bill, they kind of started to lose interest, about it. So what we need to do first is tell them, this is what recreational therapy is, and this is how consumers, and this is why we want a license. I think at least I made the wrong assumption. They already knew who we were, what we did. So
And why we were there. They didn't even know why we were there. We had to really start from the very beginning.
yeah,
I can tell them a secret, my opinion. My opinion is, if you could find an educator, because we know what rec therapy is, but an educator knows how to articulate it much better than the average person. They're used to talking about it. So if you could find an educator that will, because we kind of doubled up and go to different, but we on Long Island, we went with Gail Lamberta, Dr. Lamberta, and she was wonderful. She really, bam, she hit them with the facts, and we didn't have to say too much. She really, was very good at it. So I think having their support physically, if they can go with you, or at least, write the letters or whatever support that they can give you, I think that's great.
and also you'll find out there might be people. It doesn't necessarily have to be to say I'm the name, someone you might know that knows a legislator. There are people like you and I, so they maybe cozier gatherings or some sort of maybe event that we had some sort of, relationship with them. So, and you also may know calls that they're sensitive to. Maybe it's something that, their parent, their grandmother, the child received records of their concern. So there's some research you have to do to find out a little bit about what are some of the, things they are really interested in, what other committees they serve on or they're in charge of. And each and every assembly member or senator has a bio on their website. You can kind of do a little homework when you're starting to go out and meet with these different legislators, or at least, maybe talk to them virtually now, right? Is to actually see what their causes are, speak to those causes and how recreational therapy can help those causes, so kind of get their interests when we're involved in it.
Yeah, secret. It's not a secret, but it's a good thing, I think, is that Parks and Rec, they are involved with all the towns. They know all the politicians. So if you could tap into all those resources, they can help you make the contact, make the phone call, go with you maybe, whatever. They, again, that's where Dr. Umberto was a big help for us. She knew all Suffolk and Nassau County. So you and I went to several, right?
Yeah.
She was great, and that's what you want to do. You want to tap into Parks and Rec as much as you can to get their help and support.
Linda was very friendly. We sent her lots of that. And she met him somewhere at some kind of event, and he just said right then and there, "Yeah, sure, Linda. I'll sponsor the bill." Sometimes it's that easy, So, so just be prepared to, once you write the bill, to edit. As Ray had mentioned, edit. Then begin to, identify people, as I mentioned earlier, that may be that will sponsor it, Just continue to nurture and maintain contacts. So what happens, so let's say you have your bill, right? It's all prepared. You have, co-sponsorship or sponsorship, I should say, right? In the Assembly, in the Senate. So it goes through a reading, right, to everyone, and it goes through another reading, and then we'll do that and we'll go through committee. As I mentioned earlier, our bill goes to higher education committee. Then they go through other different committees for approval. So it's not a very short process, and also very timely, because you only have 2 years. The other key is that legislative session is only open from January to June. Yeah, so
Crazy, isn't it?
really to get the work done, you have to do it in that amount of time. Now, if there are emergency type of legislation, they will congregate and meet. But most of your work is from January to June. And then it finally goes to the entire Assembly and Senate for vote on the floor. If it gets passed, hopefully the governor will sign it. Then you have your bill. Sounds easy.
The education chair of the education committee changes, right? They don't stay all the time. So we have
The higher education committee.
Yeah. Val was it for that one time, and he told us right out when we meet with it, if he doesn't support it, like it was like a little embarrassing sitting there having this conversation when. But anyway, it was like, he was not interested in supporting us. We didn't know I didn't know at the time he was the chair of the.
Yeah, but I have to say though, what he did suggest for us to do was to go up in Albany and to speak with professions, the Office of Professions, to speak with their people, have a meeting, and also have, there's also a lobbyist, they will lobby for the LCAP, to talk about it. We had at the time Bob Riley, who was the executive director, and then CTRC come with us, and Mary Beth. We spoke about it, and we talked about stuff. So I mean, he did recommend that, even though he thought in the bill it has to just give us an opportunity to meet some other people. So right, continue to monitor your progress, continue legislative contacts, to always continue to watch for opposition. Never know, it might be someone, another group, it doesn't necessarily have to be another profession that may be against the bill for whatever reason. And as we mentioned earlier, try to collect any kind of data from cases that you see that would show who are not CTRSs.
Anyone has a question? You share with us always. Right now, illegal for supervisor licensure says, you have the rest of that?
Well, that's the question I asked you earlier.
Oh, okay.
I'm monitoring it.
Gotcha, thank you.
So what happens is that, once the bill is passed, there's more work to do. You have to establish rules, definitions, different types of renewal license, eligibility for license, So all that work, all that has to be kind of completed once you actually get a board, a licensure board. So, a good part of the work was done. The biggest part, getting the bill passed. But then also we need to do some other work to make sure that everything in order so that you can have a licensure board. Also public hearings, sometimes it's good to have public hearings about the bill. Right, just, monitor continuously. I think Dorothy was a good one. She went out and she would always kind of monitor the bill. She would see if there was any kind of things that maybe impacted our licensure bill, any group that would maybe oppose it or have some concern about the bill.
Now, Dorothy was the secretary for Licensure for like 4 or 6, I don't know, 8 years. I don't know. She was the secretary forever, and she volunteered to be our secretary. And she was awesome. She really.
Oh, here
Here we go.
is our. One more slide. So, yeah. So, what is the main reason for wanting licensure?
What do you guys think?
I have one quick question,
Yeah.
one quick comment from online. Mary Beth has asked me to share that the climate right now may be good for the pursuit of RT licensure because of the large focus on mental health during the pandemic. And she also wanted me to share that since 2017, the VA has required that all recreation therapists have a CTRS. As with many other things, time is crucial. So look at what political issues we use.
Yeah.
Use the microphone. You got to come a little closer to the
Sure.
microphone.
Yeah, those are all good comments. The thing is, though, right, VA requires CTRS, but they don't require licensure.
Right.
So of course it's the federal government, not a state government.
Do they require OTs to be licensed? Okay. Well, because
Well,
maybe
they
because they are no
probably-
license, that's why they're not required.
Well, they probably do because they have license.
Right. So once we
OTs
get
are
it,
licensed.
maybe the VA will say you must be licensed, not certified anymore. I'm
Perhaps.
assuming.
You're right.
I-
By the way, currently it's not that way.
Right. Right.
Because, we have no license in therapy. And I'm not sure even, like in North Carolina, that, New Hampshire, I'm not sure if they have to be licensed in the VA.
Same person, Mimi just shared that the same legislators are still the chairs of both the higher education committees in both House and New York State Legislature as in 2017. They still had the same chairs now.
No.
Okay.
No, because Lavelle has retired.
Lavelle retired. Okay.
Yeah. And I'm not sure who the higher education committee person is. However, I do think Glick was on the Senate higher education. She still remains as higher education.
And
It's
Stravinsky is,
difficult- It's difficult for us even to meet with Glick. Mimi could speak to that because she tried quite a few times to meet with Senator Glick, and she just could never really get her here. She would just kind of give these kind of, not random, but kind of, template type of responses that, that type of thing. I'm not sure, how much time do we have?
15.
15
Okay,
minutes, right.
good. So you want to answer this question before you go on? Then you get a chance to answer it. What's the main reason for wanting a license? Anybody? Yes?
Could it be because it will give us the ability to get insurance to charge for our services?
That is good. We didn't cover that. So that's interesting you go there. And that's a good point. We do want to be able to bill for our services. So that's awesome. And that's the hope. Once you license, you can bill. But based on what we covered, does anybody want to? Yes,
Protecting the consumer.
of course.
Right, you get the gold star.
Yes.
Only because I'm still in my home.
Right, it's the highest form of protection for consumers.
And that's almost the first thing they want to hear. They want to recognize that the importance of what a license does, and a license protects people. So
So,
your answer is very good.
I want to save a little time for some questions and answers. But so what's really happening now with the bill? Most of you probably would say probably nothing, right? There's still an active recreational therapy licensure bill in the Senate. Nothing. They expanded in 2017. Now I'm not sure if anyone else, if I'm sure whoever, has done anything. I was speaking with Lee earlier, he doesn't think so. But Senator Alonso, from
They're saying they can't hear you.
Senator Alonso has introduced the bill again. And he, whether it was, his aides, his office, what they probably did, they saw the bill, and they kept on rolling the bill, year after year, term after term. And as you see here, it was introduced in March of 2021. And so, you could plug in that bill number and you see our bill, right? But, I think as what will happen, as just mentioned, is, this coming June, if it doesn't get, if it doesn't go to the floor, doesn't pass, it will, again, the bill will die. And, it's really interesting, the bill just kept on rolling. So, really, the hardest work is done, because you got sponsorship already.
So will it resurrect? We don't know. That's the big question. If it's there, and I think the time is now. As Vinny always said, the time is now.
Yeah, and now it's at the Higher Education Committee, like it's always been, right? Introduced in 2022.
Isn't that amazing? It's still there, and we're not even fighting for it. So, that's great. All the hard work was done with the research and everything. Now we have to convince them why.
And if you want to see the bill, just jump onto that. See the bill. Jump onto that link. Contact information. But I'd like to kind of get your response or your questions, your thoughts about what we presented here, and maybe also your thoughts on licensure in general. Yes.
Hi, wonderful presentation. With the bill currently being referred to the higher end, is there anything we can do between now and the end of June for the session? Is it part, their Senate session is over to move things along or like that?
Well, I think probably the first thing to do is create a small group who are interested. I think that's your first step. We'll talk about it. Talk about, really kind of coordinating a real work plan, or a way to pursue this if you're interested as a group. That would be the first thing I think to do. Because right now, what's really important is that you have a coordinated effort to do it. I think just people individually doing stuff may not really cost effective. Any other thoughts or questions?
I would think a lobbyist is gonna be, like, I feel like I keep hearing a lobbyist is gonna be the key. Why?
Because they have the ear of the legislators. They know what to say.
They know the politics of, Albany. They know who to talk to, who not to talk to, who's not gonna go with it, who's gonna go with it, right? That's their job, is to get the information out there and talk. I don't need to talk over you. I'm sorry, Jeff.
No, sorry, go ahead. Just looking at you.
You have another piece of good news to tell them.
Well,
Maybe.
No, this is not such good news.
No, get to the good news by saying the girl, the one that she was CTRS.
Oh, okay.
She's
So what
obvious.
he's referring to is when the licensure committee expanded in 2017.
Nice and loud.
When the licensure committee disbanded in 2017, a lobbyist from Albany actually contacted Nystra. And I got into the thread of emails that even though we were disbanded, she was willing to help with the licensure bill. She in fact did a presentation to the Nystra board about how it could help. Kicker is that she was a she's a CTRS at the time.
Pretty awesome, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's like a
And
door open right
The
there.
issue then at the time was that Nystra board felt that Nystra as a not-for-profit could not do any kind of fundraising for a lobbyist, which is not true. Right. And that was my frustration. I was just, a little bit my frustration. I couldn't convince Nystra board at the time that, yeah, you can raise some money, maybe get her on board to help you all. That's what you need, or at least some initial conversations about it. It probably would have been free, but that was,
We were
hit myself in the head. Why didn't this happen, a few months prior?
Yeah.
That type of thing, but that's what happened.
She's still around.
She's no longer a lobbyist. She's from the Albany area, but this might be a good person to contact and just talk to her about it. Yeah, I'll give her contact. She's like a director of the YMCA.
Yes.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you'd be good.
Yeah. She'd be a good person to talk to. She knows. I think probably your chances are pretty good in the Senate, that it will go again, but it would be good to, talk to Lonza in his office about it, but to know that your recreational therapist in New York State has an interest, and, but then you also need to, maybe talk to Zembrowski, because he's still an assembly member, or, if he's no longer interested in it, maybe to find another assembly member.
So I have a question. How did you determine which senators and assembly spoke to initially? Was it because they were more recommended where you live? Or was it a convenience thing, or that you knew that they had interest? And do you recommend us seeking out folks who don't represent us as individuals to start, or going to our local, whoever our representatives are?
Zembrowski was in my district, so I went there. But it's always good to look a profile of assembly member and see what areas they're interested in. Or just ask people, do you know someone? Assembly member they can talk to about.
I definitely think you should start at home and find out, if they'll support you, and you gotta maybe get the rec therapist in your area to write him and contact him and, give him the information so that he knows who his constituents are.
Exactly.
Right?
You're his constituent or her.
So he should be working for you.
Right.
Or they should be working for you. And you want to make sure that I think you should start there. And of course, they sometimes recommend other people they think they know who would support it. So they could point you in the next direction, right? That's what happened. This would be awesome to have, guys. This is a great opportunity for us. It's a great time right now. I mean, I thought 10 years ago was a great time. I think anytime we get it, it's going to be a great time. But I think, I don't want to sound like a cheerleader up here, but I really do want to encourage you and support you and commend you for even having us and being interested in it. I think licensure is important for our consumers, for our field, because I think, I said this back in 1994 when I started teaching, that we're at the crossroads. These crossroads have been going for so long, but I really do feel right now, I was talking to Dr. Kunstler recently, and she kind of gave me an impression with, community rec and parks and rec, they're doing such a good job out in the community. TR is kind of not, the focus anymore, so she's not really sure. She was on the board for a long time, right? She was on our committee.
It's for a period of time.
Yeah. So she, she's someone who I admire and respect and knows a lot. And also, I got a little nervous hearing that. Maybe I hope we didn't miss the cross. I hope we take the right path. So I want to encourage you guys to don't let this die. Let make it happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's great that there's an interest here. Whatever how large that interest is, at least want to hear it. If I could do anything, I'm not going to be on the committee.
Yeah,
Cross that off the list.
I think
But I could certainly, I'm not going to speak for Ray, but I could certainly help advise some of the things that you need to do, get you started. So this was really something that was passionate for me and for many people. So, if you need some help with just some advisement, certainly.
questions, comments, anything? This is the time, folks. I really wish you luck with it. It's kind of exciting. I think I really do see it happening. I do. I wish you luck with it. If I make any point really clear, it's you need the support from many. You need it from Nystra. Parks and Rec would be one of the times when we were talking to a guy on Long Island. He was saying, well, who supports you? Who backs you? And well, our rec therapists throughout this New York State, of course, well, what organizations back you? And we really had a hard time saying it because no one was committing to it at the time, right? So we need the support of the schools, all those organizations like NAMI and Alzheimer's Association, and there's about 24 of them, right, out there that you should get their support. So use the support. You have the files. You gave the files to Sherry, I think, right?
You can show that they're still supporting that new letters.
Yeah, they're older letters, but
I'm just thinking to show like they're continuing on. They're still supporting.
I don't know if they're still supporting us. Yeah, you'll find out.
Yeah.
But yeah, you could say that, back a few years back, that he supported us. Or he still- Yeah, absolutely. I can send that information.
So it seems that the higher education, when it gets to that point, that's where it's blocked.
Yeah.
So do you have any ideas on how to?
If I did, I think we might be licensed. I was just constantly calling the office, speaking to them, finding out why aren't we on the agenda. Run up, discuss them.
Gotta make a lot of noise.
Yeah.
A lot of noise. And we made some noise. We didn't make enough noise.
Yeah, we're a small profession,
Yeah.
so when we make noise, it's not probably loud enough, I've had 20,000 CPRSs in New York State, and keep on sending letters, keep on sending emails, it might make a difference.
We used to show up to Nystra conferences with laptops, and each one of us brought out laptops. So we'd have 8, 10 laptops laying around trying to get you guys to come over and send a letter. And we had all the senators and all the politicians we had all the information we needed. All you had to do is press, and some people would stroll over it. We didn't get the enthusiasm as we thought we would have, or as we did in the beginning. So, you got to stay motivated, you got to stay focused, you got to get everyone involved,
Yeah.
keep the conversation going,
Yeah, things are different now, so, might not get a conference with a lot of people, and so I have to be done somehow virtual. This is great beginning, 60, 65 people in person, maybe next year will be more. But I'm not sure the days of 300 people at a conference, actual conference is going to happen. So we kind of have to, that's the best way to do it. People have reasons. Not to come to conferences now.
Was there another comment I saw come up?
Yeah, one just came through from Navy saying you have to have leaders from various healthcare organizations, agencies, et cetera, pressuring the legislators in the higher ed.
Yeah. Good point.
Thank
Good point, Mimi.
Thank you, Mimi. Mimi was on our board. So was Mary Beth, who's on today.
And we also, people also said thank you.
Thank you all for giving Ray and I the opportunity. Otherwise, if there's no other questions, I guess we can end here. Have a good rest of the conference.
Yes, yes, yes.
Hopefully, someone call.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for your help.
Yeah, thank you.
Jackie, for your help.
You're welcome. No.
Another day will be like-
I'm coming, I'm just getting this one word found up first.
Anybody who's left in the room shows about this now.
Oh, no. I think that, I think, no, the legislation is already, I don't think we should present the last. Hiring laws and like, where,
It was very well organized and coordinated.
Yes.
Using the mic, okay, so using the projector.
I don't.